Hello everyone, my name is David Solomon and today we will be learning how to prevent littering by using scratch coding. And this is designed for a 4th grade group. Now moving on to the expected learning outcomes. At the end of this activity, students will be able to understand the basics of scratch coding, code for score implementation, code for horizontal and vertical movement, and also have an increased understanding of what littering is and how it can affect our environment. For this activity, the content standards include the ISTE Standard 1.5 and specifically Standard 1.5.D, which is that students understand how automation works and use algorithmic thinking to develop a sequence of steps to create and test automated solutions. Another standard that is being used is ISTE Standard 1.3 and specifically 1.3.D, which states that students build knowledge by actively exploring real-world issues and problems, developing ideas and theories, and pursuing answers and solutions. So why is littering harmful to the environment? There are many reasons why littering is harmful. Here are some of the ways in which littering can harm our ecosystem. Littering can ruin natural beauty. Littering also leads to masses of trash winding up in the ocean. That can also lead to litter harming animals, and litter harms farming as well. Littering can also be very expensive in the cost that it takes to clean everything up, and littering can also be very expensive to you because it is against the law. Littering can also spread germs, bacteria, and viruses, which leads to plenty of people getting sick, which we want to prevent. And littering also affects the surrounding areas as well. Change starts with us. Make sure you always properly discard of any trash you may have. Alright, now that we are ready to get started on the coding itself, you can go ahead and go to scratch.mit.edu, and that's where we can find the Scratch website and we can get started. Once you're at this page, you can go ahead and click on the left side and start creating. And this is the screen that will pop up. Now, on the left side, you can see all of the different items you can have to add a code, and all of these code for a different action, such as moving or turning. Then over on the right hand side, you get a preview of what your code looks like. And on the bottom to the right, you can choose a sprite, which is kind of like a character, an item. And to the far right bottom corner, you can choose a backdrop. So our first step is actually going to be to add a backdrop. And for this activity, we can do a boardwalk. So we will actually not be using Scratchcat for this activity. So you can go ahead and click on the little trash bin on the top right of the sprite and to take them out of the code. Now that you have your backdrop, you want to go ahead and choose a sprite that you want to prevent from touching the ground and becoming litter. So that could be anything. And for this activity, I will have it be this box of takeout. Now what we want to code for is for the ball actually being able to bounce around. So to start off, we're going to go over to the yellow circle that says events, and we're going to drag over when green flag clicked. And we're going to put it over in this middle space where all of our coding will go. And what this does is that when we press this green flag up on the top right, it will make it so that the code can actually start. From there, we will move over to the blue bubble that says motion. And we're going to drag over point in direction. And we're going to change this 90 to 45. And what's cool is that it just snaps right under our previous coding item. Now we want to go over to this orange bubble that says control, and we want to drag over this forever bracket. And what this does is that it actually repeats anything that is inside of the bracket. So if we go over to blue in motion and we drag over move 10 steps, we can actually put it inside of this code, which is pretty cool. Then we're going to change it to 15. And what we want to do is that we want to repeatedly stop the litter from touching the ground. So we're going to code so that it bounces back whenever it touches the edge of the screen. And to do that, we grab this code over here, still in the motion bubble, the blue one, and we drag if on edge, bounce, and we will also place this in the same bracket under move 15 steps. And now what happens if we click the green flag is that it will repeatedly bounce around, and once it touches the edge, it'll bounce back. And you can press this stop sign to stop the code. Next, what we're going to want to do is actually create a paddle, and this will be what we use to stop the litter from touching the ground. So if you go ahead to the bottom right and choose a sprite, and then you can go up here and type in paddle or until it pops up. You go ahead and click on it, and you'll see that it'll appear in your screen. Next, what we want to do is that we want to make it so that the paddle actually moves with our mouse. So same as the first code, we're going to go over and grab when green flag clicked. We're going to drag it over to the middle. And then we're going to go back to the orange bubble and control. And we're going to grab the same forever bracket that we used before. But this time we're going to grab go to random position, and we're going to put this inside of the bracket. And we're going to change random position to mouse pointer. And what that does is that when the code starts, it'll actually follow the mouse. And now the interesting thing is that we have two new items inside of our code. We have the takeout, the litter, and we have the paddle. And now what we want to do is that we want a code for both of them interacting with each other. So to start, we're going to go ahead and grab the when green flag clicked over from the yellow events bubble. We're going to drag it over, and we're going to make a new section where we can code. Then we're going to go back into the orange bubble, and we're going to grab forever and drag it over and place it under the new when green flag clicked code. And now we're going to grab a new control code, which is this if then code. And we're actually going to place this one inside of the other orange code. And then we're going to go down to sensing, and we're going to grab touching mouse pointer. And we're going to place this inside of the little shape that is identical to the light blue one. And what we're going to do is that we're going to change this to paddle, because we want the litter to interact with the paddle. Then we're going to go over to motion, and we are going to grab turn blank degrees. We're going to place it inside of the if then bracket, and we're going to change this to 180 degrees. And then on top of that, we're going to grab move 10 steps from the same blue bubble. We're going to place it under the turn 180 degrees, and we're going to change 10 to 15. And then lastly, we're going to go over to the control, and we're going to grab this wait 1 second code, and we're going to drag it under move 15 steps and within the if then code, and we're going to change this to 0.5. And now what happens is that if we press this green flag, now whenever we touch the litter, it'll bounce away. Now we need to be able to know how many times we stop litter. So for that, we're going to go over to this darker orange bubble that says variables. I'm going to click on that, and then we're going to click make a variable. And once you click on that, we can just call it score and click enter. And now you'll see that over here on the top left of our preview, we will have a score section. And now to actually make this change by 1, what we want to do is that we want to go over to the menu over here on the left side where the options are, and we want to go to change my variable by 1, and we want to change this to score. And what that will do is that it will change the score by 1 every time both of these interact with each other. And once you do that, you want to grab the code that we just changed, and we're going to drag it into the if then bracket, but over everything else. And we're going to drop it. We also need to take into account restarting the game and what the score looks like when we do that. So what we would need to do is code for it to reset. And in order to do that, we would start a new section with when green flag clicked from the events bubble. And then we would go to the control. We would go to variables, and then we would drag set my variable to 0, and we would change my variable to score, since that is what we want to change every time the green flag is clicked. And now what we want to add is a new sprite, and it is going to be a line sprite. And the reason why we are adding this line sprite is so that we know when we have not been able to block the litter from touching the ground. So we're going to grab it and we're going to place it down here on the bottom. Now what we want to code for is for the game actually ending if the litter touches the ground, or this red line. So to do that, we're going to go over to the events tab, and we're going to drag when green flag clicked, and we're going to drag it over to the coding area, and then we're going to go to control, and we're going to drag forever and place that under the green flag. And then we're going to drag another if then code, and we're going to put that inside of forever. And then we're going to go to the light blue bubble sensing, and this time we're going to place the same touching code, and we're going to place that inside of the if then, and we're going to change this to takeout, to whatever your litter is. You can change it to that. And then under control, you would go to stop all. And what this does is that if the red line interacts with the litter, which means that if the litter touches the ground, then it would end the game completely. And now once we start it, this is what it looks like. So as you can see, every time I interact with the litter and I stop it from touching the ground and harming our environment, the score goes up. And if I let it touch the ground, it ends at our score and the game ends, everything stops. And if I was to restart it, our score goes back to 0 and I'm able to try it again. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed working on this activity together with me, and I hope you learned a little more about littering and how we can prevent that in our environment. Thank you.